Hey everyone, welcome to the Warlad Podcast, episode 100. Man, that has come around quick, but it has been awesome having so many lads come on the podcast and be themselves, and hopefully you guys have enjoyed hearing what some of these guys are actually like off the field. I've certainly enjoyed bringing them to you, learnt heaps along the way, heaps of cool journeys that I didn't know about before getting them on the podcast, so it's been really cool. And if you enjoyed the podcast, then please do me a favor and share any of the podcasts that you have enjoyed or you do enjoy in the future. And to go one step further, go and get yourself some Warlad merch, some Warlad coffee, or some Pure Sports CBD. To do so, head over to warlad.com and all the information is on there. But anyway, I have an awesome guest to bring up the 100th for you. Here's one of the great lads, so let's get into it.
What a lad, what a lad, what a lad, what an absolute lad. What a lad, what a lad, what a lad, what an absolute lad.
What a lad. Well, guys, today's a very special day as we raise the bat with our 100th guest on What a Lad. So I knew I had to get someone on who was very special, potentially one of the biggest lads in not only rugby but in sport. And I think I've got him. He is an Olympic Silver Medalist. He's won the Commonwealth Gold twice. He's won 2 Sevens World Cups. He's won the Super Rugby title with the Highlanders. He's won the NPC Premiership with the Naki. He's won a championship with Hawke's Bay. And he has won Personality of the Year more times than anyone else on this planet. He is arguably the GOAT lad. And I'm stoked to have him on. What a lad. It is, of course, the one and only Kurt Baker. Welcome, Kruto.
Thanks for having me, Jebba.
Mate, I know you're in isolation. I like to rope in all my What a Lad guests while they're in isolation. What have you been up to?
Not a lot, to be honest. Early on, after the flight, we had to catch up on some Zeds, so slept for the first couple of days and recovered, and then we're at day 7 now, so it's starting to get to the point where sort of out of ideas of things to do, sort of walk around the room pointlessly, but it's not too bad.
You got clothes on though? Is that regular or you usually nude?
Yeah, I just top half, yeah. Yeah, just top half. You don't want to see the bottom half, Paul's.
Ah, shit, no. I've seen that too many times. Were you on that rowdy flight back, were you? Because I saw an article on some Olympic athletes causing a bit of a party plane. Surely that was you.
No, well, I don't know. No comment, but yeah. What's the definition of rowdy these days?
Nude on the air hostess shoulders?
Nah, there was no nudity. There's one thing I can confirm, there was no nudity.
Yeah.
Thank God.
You guys would have just been having a few beers on the way back, was it?
Yeah, I think, well, you can put the people together on that plane. There was some rowers that I think they live a pretty dry lifestyle, and they had some pretty good success at the Olympics. I think we had the surfers who were always up for a good time.
Oh yeah,
and then a few of the swimmers came back with us too. So no, I think it was a good way to finish off a pretty epic campaign of like Olympians in New Zealand. So yeah, some people might not have seen it the way we did, but it was a good time.
And you've been doing a couple of marathons with Clarkie to keep yourself busy, keep your days full.
Yeah, he had this good idea at the start. He'd do 42 k's a day on a bike, but you've seen the bikes that we're operating. Starting to get a dicky left knee, so I pulled out. I don't think it's worth it.
How many did you do?
I did 4, and then today I just did a circuit and I jumped on the bike, so I sort of told myself that was as good as 42k, but it was probably 4.2k, so close.
Claim it, eh?
100%.
Oh, anyway, we'll get to your Olympics journey. So how'd you find it? Silver medal. You obviously wanted to go one better, but you still must have felt proud that you got to the final and you got to come home with the silver.
Yeah, well, it is a funny one. I think, like, at the time, obviously disappointed with, I suppose, all rugby players in New Zealand have got pretty high expectations of themselves and their teams.
Yeah.
So, initially we were disappointed, but the more we talked about it and the more we actually realised what it wasn't just a second at a World Series tournament. It was a Olympics, and people have trained 5 years to get to that point, like us. And it's a funny one. Like, it's just because I think you play a final when someone's got to lose. But if you just say it was a road race and you had first, second, third, I guarantee the second person would be wrapped. So it's just the sport we play, yeah, I suppose if you compare it to the last Olympic campaign, you'd take it with arms wide open because we're a fair way from a silver there.
100%. And what was it like in the changing rooms after? Was it a pretty sour vibe, or was it still pretty upbeat?
Not sour. I think it was just boys who were just gutted because we knew we were capable of a lot more than probably how we went against the Fijian boys.
Yeah.
And, a lot of outsiders looking in said, the Fijian boys played really well, and they actually did. But I think just because we've got such high expectations of ourselves, it was a bit of disappointment, if I was being honest. But
yeah,
I suppose it's just rugby and sport in general. Like, someone's got to lose and someone's going to be pissed off about it. So
yeah, you must have been itching to get on. I mean, there was a moment there I was waiting for the Kruto number to come on and bring the boys home, but didn't get as many minutes as you probably would have hoped.
No, I didn't. And, I suppose that, again, is sport, because other tournaments I've had plenty of minutes. So I suppose that tournament just wasn't mine. But we always talked about we had a real strong 12, which we think a lot of the other teams didn't. So
yeah,
if I was a part of that 12 and I could, make a difference to our team, then, it was worth it.
Yeah.
Probably early on, it was just some big old shifts on D, so it made it pretty hard. But if it meant that some boys had some legs at the end of the tournament, then so be it.
Yeah.
We're a pretty good bunch of boys around, what's best for the crew. And, I feel like we've genuinely got a bloody strong squad, so you can suck it up when you've got decent players around you.
And your build up into the tournament wasn't exactly smooth, was it? You went into the tournament with a little bit of a niggle. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, I had a few hiccups. Real early on in the year, the Achilles were playing up, so I was sort of off feet for quite a while.
Yeah.
Came back, was getting into it, and then pulled my calf about maybe 6 weeks out from us leaving for the Olympics. So the road got a bit bumpier, and then so I'm off feet again. So I didn't spend a lot of time on the field prior to leaving, and then we obviously went to Townsville for the Oceania tournament, and that didn't pan out so well either. The last training before the captain's run, I rolled my ankle and tore the ligaments on the outside of my ankle. So that was obviously 2 days out from the tournament starting, so it made life pretty tough. But a few painkillers and got a lump of ice for 2 days, and I battled out there for the last game against the Fijians. So probably not the easiest game to roll out with a dicky ankle, chasing quick Fijian dudes around. But it was enough to get me a spot at the Olympics, and yeah.
How did it feel in that? How did it feel running around?
Awful, real awful.
Did it?
Straight lines, just straight lines. Anyone step me, or the first play, we ran a move and made a break, and I thought, shit, there's no way I'm stepping anyone, so I just went straight at the guy. But I was just probably lucky. Play sort of went the way I needed it to, with a sore ankle, to nurse it for a few more weeks.
And did you think that was going to cost you a spot in the Olympics, or did you always have hopes that you were going to be all right?
No, when I did it, I thought that was me done.
Oh, yeah.
I remember lying there, I was set foot up on the post, and Deb Robinson, the old All Blacks doc, was our doc. She came over, and I was like, it's roaring at me. Like, it didn't feel that good. But I just spent 2 nights in the game ready, and lucky enough at a few painkillers, and so it was enough to get me through. It was one of those ones that was like a probably 3-week injury, and I had 3 days. So if I could just get through that patch, it would be a lot better in sort of 3 weeks. So that's what it is.
Did you notice it at the Olympics?
Yeah, I was reasonably stiff, but I'd never use it as an excuse. Like, it was good enough.
Yeah, good enough for you. And how did you keep your fitness up? Like you said, you were off your feet for a real long period of time leading up to the Olympics, one of the biggest sporting events, I guess, you can have in a sport where you need to be really, really fit. How did you manage that?
I've been like my whole career, I've sort of had like injuries along the way that have stopped me for a period of time. So I've sort of learned over time to, I suppose, get used to off-feet options, whether it be a watt bike, swimming. I had a watt bike at home, so I had a lot of dark days in the garage just chipping away. The old wife rolls in, just the look on her face when I'm lying there like a dead bug on the floor. But I suppose that the other things that make it worthwhile when you get to the end point, and there's a lot of off-feet stuff, but we're probably lucky now in our era. There's plenty of options, or if you can't do one thing, you can probably do another. So I was at a point, and then lucky enough that I could do some running beforehand to get me to where I thought I needed to be.
And you were always really naturally fit too, weren't you? Like a lot of guys can't really cross over that off-feet conditioning to on-the-field conditioning, but you always managed to be able to do that, eh?
Yeah, I find that the naturally fit comment interesting, because I actually genuinely don't think I'm naturally fit. I just I'd sort of always done extras, and some guys will just do the bare minimum that's asked of them, and I was one of those guys. I probably wasn't as naturally talented as other guys, so that had to be my point of difference, and I kind of realised that at, I suppose, a quite early stage. So I've just made sure that whatever we do as a team is the bare minimum, and I'm trying to always fit in a few more.
True,
so
that's interesting.
yeah, you'd say it's natural, but at the same time, probably do it myself.
You've worked hard for that natural fitness. That's it.
Yeah, some dark old days, the mental battles, I know that.
Yeah, that is tough, eh?
Yeah.
And what was the Olympic Village like?
Yeah, it was weird, but I'd never been to another Olympics, obviously, so I had nothing to really compare it to. I'd been to Com Games, and that's on a much smaller scale. But yeah, it was weird. Like you go to the dining hall and just big long tables, and then there was perspex in front of you and either side of you, so you're almost in your own booth.
Oh, true.
So it was a bit weird, but there's still thousands of athletes rolling through the food halls, and heaps of athletes around. So I presume it'd be a little bit different to other Olympics, but it wasn't like we were locked, all chained together and couldn't go anywhere. So it was all good.
And you're obviously pretty well known after your famous celebrations you do after the game. So did lots of people want to get photos with you?
Nah, we're small fish in that pond, I think. Rugby's, we're real small fish in that pond. There's a lot of big names rolling around. I think some of the boys that follow the B-ball, there's some pretty big dog NBA players around, and we're real small fish in the Olympic pond, I think.
Were there any New Zealand athletes that you got along well with?
Yeah, we got on with Billy, the surfer, Billy Stearman.
Oh, yeah.
He's a good roast. He was in the same hotel as us after we finished the event, so we had a few brews with him, and he's good value. He's just a good Raglan lad that just he's just stoked to hang out with the boys as much as we're probably stoked to hang out with him. So it was cool. We probably connected with some sports that rugby probably potentially never does. So. I reckon there's a cool part about the Olympics itself.
Yeah, it looked like a real cool culture between all the athletes in the village. So, like you said, that's something you don't get anywhere else, and it must be cool.
Nah, and I don't think we really realised it until you sort of start talking to the other sports, and they're probably intimidated by rugby players in New Zealand just because it's probably the most played and watched sport in New Zealand. But if anything, we're probably just as intimidated by the other athletes because we realise how freakish they are. So once they had a few drinks, or we got to know each other as a wider team, it was actually really cool. Like when new athletes would come, or athletes that had won medals would come back, and we'd do huckers and welcome them back. It was actually it was real cool. It was probably something I'll look back on and be one of the coolest things I've been a part of.
That's awesome. And how many huckers did you get through? You would have been right into it.
Well, what's the definition of being in the hucker? I was standing there, but I was deep. I was real deep. The curly one was actually the New Zealand team hucker, so I didn't know it to start with. And the first time we did it, we had about 20 minutes to learn it, so I didn't know any of the words.
Yeah.
So I feel like it gets to a point where you're disrespecting the hucker when you haven't learnt it to the level that it should be at. So, early on I probably steered clear of it, but by the end I was into it. It was good.
Mate, lucky you've got so much Māori heritage in you that you can pick those sort of things up naturally, eh?
Yeah, totally. And I'm quite a vicious-looking human, too, eh?
Oh, good stuff. Anyway, Horse, we've got so much to get through. What a career you've had. It's unbelievable. So many twists and turns. But we need to go back to the start. I could imagine you would have been a very cheeky kid growing up. But what was your childhood like?
It was pretty good. I grew up in Palmy. My parents split up pretty young, so I was like 3 when they split up. So it was like, disjointed, but it was all good. And just learn to make it work, and that's what it was. So, I think at the same time that's probably moulded me into the person I am today. So you kind of appreciate that a wee bit.
Yeah.
Through school, went to probably one of the rougher intermediates in Palmy. So went to Monred. So it was me and a lot of the Island boys, which, looking forward to now, again, probably moulded me into being able to fit into, our environment probably better than some other guys. So went there, and then obviously went to Palmy Boys, where we had a pretty good crop of players that rolled through the same time as me. So I think my sixth form year, we made top 4. We lost to Christchurch Boys. We were stacked at the time. It was Dicko and Colin Slade and that crew. So, and then I suppose the seventh form year we had a probably even more solid team, but we underperformed. We had Kruto, Andre Taylor, one of your boys, a few others, but we're lucky in Palmy. There's actually a pretty good crop of players rolling through there. I suppose Aaron Smith was he was at fielding, so we had a pretty good rep team. The Crosby boys, the Wylocks, so
all the boys.
Sort of from there that was probably where it all started for me. It was just I was lucky. I went to a good high school that was pretty decent at footy. A few coaches just kept a little white battler in their team, and I seemed to grow a little bit over the latter parts of high school.
Were you keen to play footy before you sort of made the first 15 and sixth form? Was footy sort of the plan for you even from a young age, or not really?
Yeah, I played it from a really young age. I never made any rep teams or anything until about maybe under 16s or under 18. So
yeah,
definitely wouldn't have said it was a planned pathway. And at the time, it's a few moons ago, but that was sort of early 2006, my last year at school. So even rugby then probably was nowhere near as professional as it is now. So I can still remember my English teacher just racking me one day, because you were probably the same at school. You'd go out on all your sports trips and do a bit of school in between.
Yeah.
She's just like, you're never going to make a career out of rugby. And it still sticks with me that she said that. But yeah, at the time I probably thought she was right, to be honest. I wasn't the smartest cookie in the jar, so I sort of buggered either way.
Was there a moment where you thought you were just going to crack down and give rugby a real good go? Like, was there a moment where everything sort of switched for you?
Yeah, I reckon it was that sixth form year, the end of that sixth form year, I sort of cracked into a reasonably solid first 15. I suppose like man or two started sniffing around when you're seventh form, so like academies and that, which back then was a big deal to me, but it was not financially beneficial or anything. But once they start sniffing around, you're like, shit, maybe I half decent at this, and might be an opportunity to make a career out of it. But I suppose I didn't really know what I was going to do after school, so I just sort of rolled with the punches, worked for my old man as a sparky. But I was like, I didn't want to do that either. So probably, to be honest, all the things along the way probably drove me to want to train harder at footy, because it weren't things that were sort of enticing me too much along the way.
Yeah, but mate, you said you're a battler, but mate, you were a gun. I remember going up against you at New Zealand 20s and maybe 19s as well, trials, and you were an absolute wizard. So I think you made the 20s, but not the 19s, was it?
No, I made neither. I trialled the last year, the 19s, and then they went to 20s the following year. But I think that year, that was when Zach Guilford and Izzy Dagg were the outsides. It was a pretty stacked crew, to be fair. If you're going to miss out, at least you miss out some decent players. But I ended up getting called over to the 20s in Wales, and they ended up winning it. So I actually got the medal there somewhere. So in about 5 years' time, I was 100% starting every game.
But I remember you carving up that trial too, that 20s trial. You were at fullback and you were running an absolute mark. Obviously didn't do enough to get Izzy Dagg out of the fullback jersey, who was, to be fair, an absolute wizard.
Nah, Izzy Dagg was already playing full-grown men on the 7 circuit, so I think there was going to be a push. And I think Zach was about 6 months away from being an All Black, so yeah, it's going to be a tough push.
Yeah, true. But but then you made your Manawatu 2 debut pretty quickly after that, didn't you? Yeah,
I think I must have been maybe 20. Yeah, it would have been 2008, so 2 years out of school. I wasn't straight away.
Yeah.
I think Aaron Kruto and Andre was in the Turbos at school. So I was a little bit later than those two. But yeah, 2008, I think was my first game for the Turbos. It was against a stacked Wellington team.
Was it?
Jose Gear,
true.
Corey Jane, yeah. I was shitting my pants.
How'd you find it? How'd you find going into that Manawatu environment?
Yeah, it was good. It was a lot different to how things are now. Dave Rennie was our coach, and Bruce Hemera. They were, obviously Ren's is a bloody good coach, and he probably was really good for us, or he was really good for us younger guys, just to teach us skills and that side of things. But at the same time, we basically finished a game and just straight on the suit. There's a lot of push-ups at that time. It was probably Saturday, Sunday, turn up Monday.
True.
It was a good time. That first year, when you're young, and back then professionalism looked a lot different to probably what it does now. But yeah, it was looking back now, probably could have got off to maybe a little bit better start. But at the same time, I've made some of my best mates were in that team, and I'm still mates with them now. So wouldn't change it for the world, and I suppose moulded me into what I am today.
You made the New Zealand Sevens pretty much that same year, eh? How did that one come about?
Yeah, I played the last half of the season for the Turbos, and then went down to the National Sevens and played for Manawatu. I think Titch might have picked me up from there, so asked me to go to a camp. I actually went to the camp and made it, and then got to Dubai, and bloody Nuffy Tuatavaki steamrolled me in the warm-up. I was holding a bag and rolled my high ankle sprain, so I didn't even play.
True.
So I ended up.
Oh wow!
I was named in the team and never played a minute. So that was what I was talking before about injuries and things. I suppose that was my first real serious enough injury to not play for a few months. So went back home and regathered myself. I think for the rest of that next year, which would have been 2009, I was in the academy with the Turbos. Obviously played for the Turbos, but was still working because it was pretty amateur back then. So yeah, I didn't really. My first game for the Sevens wasn't until I think the end of 2009. Yeah, we went to London and remember.
How do you find dealing with that injury as a young kid who'd just been picked for New Zealand for the first time?
No, I think I handled it well. I just didn't because I hadn't had a taste of it. I didn't really know what it meant, as in I was not going to be playing for Sevens. I was really lucky. A guy from Palmy sort of mentored me quite a bit, and I can clearly remember him saying, like, you've had a sniff now. He set me up on it when I got home, got me a wind trainer. I didn't know what it was. I was like, what's this thing? And he just sort of made me smash out bikes on a regular basis. And looking back, things like that probably kept me in good enough nick to operate as a rugby player when I came right again, because at that age in Palmy, all my mates were at uni. There was a lot of good soup ups and things that, if I'd gone the other way, I could have just got spat out the back. So, I was probably lucky that I had people to direct me in the right way that probably knew better than me at the time.
Yeah. So then you mentioned your first tournament over in London. That was the following year. What was that like going into that New Zealand Sevens camp and then playing on the big stage?
Yeah, it was epic. I think at the time they were on a run. They'd maybe won like 8 World Series in a row. They were dominant. And Zar Lawrence was the starting midfielder, I think, at the time, and he got injured. So it's just luck. And then back then, I think from memory, sort of Titch would only play as 7, and then those other, however many, I think it was, the subs were different back then, but those other guys didn't really play too much. They'd come on the end when it was 30 points up and have a little run around. But Zara actually got ruled out of the tournament. I'm sure my first game was against, I'm not one of those guys that can remember games that well, but I can remember this. It was against South Africa, and our very first play, I think we ran like a 1-2 cut or something, and I went straight through and scored. And I was like, geez, that's what I needed, because the confidence was sweet after that. But, from there, I was pretty fit back then, and we had guys that could break a game anywhere. I just sort of had to be off their shoulders. I just played like probably a fullback would play in 15s and 7s. And I grew up watching guys like Cullen and that play played for Seven, so it sort of like indirectly moulded my game off them. And he was fit as buggery, so
Yeah.
you know, if you're fit enough at that time, right place, right time, usually.
Yeah, you and Cullen, exactly the same.
Not even close.
But you obviously did impress Titch, and then you did end up going to the Commonwealth Games. That must have been a pretty unreal tournament.
Yeah, again, it was a bit weird. It was in Delhi.
Yeah, what was that like? What's India like?
We didn't see much of it, to be fair, because at the time there was there's everything going on. Like, I think they hadn't even finished the village, so we got there and there was like, the debacle. Like, I don't even think we potentially didn't even leave the Common Games village when we were there from memory. So, yeah, I suppose if growing up aspiring to be at the Commonwealth Games and you go there, it was a bit of a letdown. But at the same time, we, as a Sevens team, it was pretty epic. We obviously played Aussie in the final. I think they pulled back a few Aussie players at the time, a few sort of names that were biggish names at the time, and we rolled them. So we had a pretty epic team looking back as well, though. I think Bender came back. That was when Zach was in his prime. Jose Gear, so some pretty beastie animals to throw the ball to, which was good.
And that final went right down to the wire too, eh? Was it a try on full time or something?
Yeah, we might have been up, just up
to
on
seal
full
it,
time,
yeah.
and then we scored. Yeah, we scored on full time.
And you gave the Aussies some spray, didn't you?
Well, I didn't actually spray them. I just, as I was putting the ball down, just go, we steer, but there's a few photos floating around of that, which make it look worse than it was.
Mate, that is one thing that you've done in your career, though. You've always been prone to a good spray of the referee or some players, eh? It's got you in trouble before.
Yeah, I haven't got the best rep in that sense, but I always look back to I went and talked to the Blues about some PD stuff a few must have been a month before we left, and I said the first thing I said to him, I was like, look, me as a rugby player is a lot different to me as a person, so get that off your skin, and then we'll start from here. And they all had a laugh because I think probably half of them had played me and got a serve. So it's a bit of a tough one. You'd say you're not proud of it, but I suppose it's just that's who I am as an athlete, and I'm paid to win games of rugby. So if it helps my team win and guys lose the guts over it, then sweet.
Have you found that when people have met you that they feel like you are a different person to who you actually are?
Yeah, 100%. I think a huge portion of people that just happen to know me as a rugby player think that I'm an absolute arsehole. And if I'm honest, I just say to them, I say to a lot of people, if you've met me in person and I'm still an arsehole, then sweet, call me an arsehole, but don't judge me based on how I play the game. I always look at guys like Dane Coles and I'm like, people that don't know Coles who probably think the same thing. Yeah, there's a lot of 100%, players similar. Yeah. But I think I'd be gutted about it in the future if people had met me in person and still thought the same thing. But I don't think that's the case unless there's some underlying. I need to scratch the surface and do some more checking.
Mate, not a chance. You're an absolute lad. But it is cool. I love it how guys can just be who they are on the field, and as soon as the game's finished, then you don't hold any grudges, do you? You're straight into it after the game and go have a chat to whoever you were spraying, or whether it was the referee, you'll probably go and apologise, because I know the referees cop it just as much as the players.
Yeah, I suppose I think a big part of that is when the era I was brought up in, and even my old man in there.
Yeah,
I think they were just old school, as in what goes on the field stays on the field, and I've sort of always had that mentality. But I feel like the newer age player really struggles with that. And having gone back and played some Mitre 10 Cup last year with Hawke's Bay, there's some guys that have held grudges post the whistle. I'm like, well, that's not how I was taught. I was sort of taught what goes on the field stays on the field. But yeah, guys that like me because of it, then sweet. But maybe get to know me first, eh? Yeah. Know me before you judge me.
Mate, I love it. I love watching it. It always brings some a good side watch to games when you know someone's after someone because of niggle or something like that. I love watching Colsey. I love watching you play. It's good value.
Oh, yeah.
But then, mate, you did move up to the Neckie, so what brought that move about?
They had a fullback at the time. His name was Casey Stone, and he was sort of playing every game. I'd sort of played bits bits and bobs of that year, and I wasn't sort of like a mainstay in that team. And got a phone call from the CEO at the time, and it was Mark Robinson, who's now the NZR CEO. And he said, we're really keen on getting you up here, having a look around. And I went up there, and I was pretty impressed by their setup, and I felt like I was going to get more opportunity at fullback where I wanted to play up there. So, it was a tough decision because I think Mano too had done a lot for me from the academy side. But if I'm being honest, I think that move really helped my career. I might have got stuck in just the rut of play soup up every weekend, and maybe I needed the change just to get away. Didn't mean we didn't soup up, but it was just an opportunity to get up there and play with some. At the time I thought there were some good players up there.
Just meant you got to add in a bit more punting.
I met some lads that loved a good punt, so it was a dangerous combo.
Do you still punt?
Nah, drips and drabs. I would have wasted a fair bit in my early part of my career, which I'm definitely not proud of. But taught me some lessons, and still dabble every now and then, but not like we used to. I think. I've probably sorted my shit out a bit off the field with a bit more of a plan of where I want to head, and probably had a few wake up calls on the way, so it was good for me. It was wake up calls with a second chance, I suppose. So I still had some money in the pot.
I always remember you on the punt. You'd always have like a when they block your account if you go over your limit, a wee restriction, and then like pretty much first day of the month or something, you'd hit it and you'd be done.
Whoever invented those restrictions is an absolute.
You'd go hard or go home, wouldn't you?
Yeah, that was probably it. I went too hard too early on a lot of things, but probably the lads that I hung around with probably influenced it a wee bit, eh?
Yeah, they definitely do. We had a few good lads up there who absolutely loved it. But what other memories from your Taranaki time that stand out for you? You obviously had some good Shield success, won the Shield a few times. You won the Premiership. Yeah,
some of my best times in rugby were up there. It was wicked there. The people that have now moved on, and say Clarkey, who's our coach, he was a skills coach. Obviously Robbo's now the CEO of New Zealand Rugby. Nikita, who was our manager, she's now our PDM at Sevens. The players, you look at some of the players that have come out of there, or some of those boys that have gone overseas, or even like guys like Bodie and that. It was wicked, and Big Broady. I lived with Big Broady and Keatsy, who were just roosters. We just lived a different life. We lived out of the beach, and I suppose it helps when your team's successful. But we at the time we were pretty successful, and we became quite a dominant team. I think we might have played your mates from Tassie in that final, and
one of the greats.
Yeah, it was epic, and I still remember. I think we won the Shield, and then that defence with a packed house. It gives you goosebumps, that sort of stuff, and I feel like that's what rugby in New Zealand's about. Is provinces getting behind their team. So I suppose from a rugby performance perspective, we were going pretty well, and I was going pretty well. I was on the back of a pretty epic team, and then just winning stuff usually helps how you feel about things as well. So it was a cool 5 or 6 years I think I was there, but wouldn't change it for the world.
Yeah, mate, you won Personality of the Year 5 or 6 times down there too. So, mate, you've got an absolute gift.
Yeah, until you turned up. I think when you regularly get nude, it's quite easy to get the Personality of the Year. Like, people think you're weird when you shower nude these days. So, it made it easy, I think.
But one story that I remember about you after the 2014 final, you had to fly off to the Maldives tour, and you've got your famous interview with One News or whoever it was, and one of the great yarns from you. Talk me through that one.
Yeah, it was the night after we won the Premiership. I can still remember it like so clearly. the words weren't coming out that clearly at the time. So we must have played, it was a night game, I think, from memory. We won that.
Yeah, it was, yeah.
And then we went back to Jackson Orman's place, and all the Tassie boys came. Marty Banks. I think Fonzie would have been there then, eh?
Fonnie was there, yeah.
Yeah, Kieran Fonatia. And then obviously all us boys, and we sent it. And I still, the sun was coming up, and I thought, shit, we've got to get to the, we obviously worked out that we had a plane that we needed to get to ASAP, so we all just smoke bombed, and I packed my bag before I left. And my mum had actually come to watch the final, so she'd stayed. I was living with Mitch Croswell at the time.
Yeah.
She'd come to stay. So I walked in the door, and she was standing at the door, and she's like, we're going to go. So I just basically walked in, picked my bag up to the loop, walked back out, and then off to the airport. So there's probably, I reckon, about a 30-minute dry patch before that interview, but you could probably tell that by the words that were coming out of my mouth.
Oh, so good.
This is what I've always remembered since then. I can clearly remember saying to that reporter, you can't use that. So that's why you never trust some of those buggers, because he didn't listen to me.
Mate, I still can't believe that he did use that. Like, you made zero sense at all.
There had nothing in it. Like, there was no information in it.
I know. It was just a complete piss take, but I'm glad he did. Jeez, it gave me some joy over the years.
The worst bit was that was say like 8 o'clock in the morning or whatever time the flight was, and then we arrived at Māoris camp, and you sort of had like a couple of meetings because it was a Sunday or something, and they knew we'd obviously played the day before.
Yeah.
I was beached as, so I'd fallen asleep in the scratcher. Got to dinner at like, it must have been just before 6, and I was sitting there eating dinner, and then my phone just started roaring at me, like heaps of hits, and I was like, what is going on? Pulled my blower out, and the boys were just into me, and that video was on the chat at the time, and I just sunk. I was like, no. Everyone else thought it was hilarious, obviously, but I was I was already in a hole because I was hung to bits, and then that popped up. I was like, wow, can't come back from this.
How did you get on the media gig that morning? Surely they give you the pass.
Yeah, well, I'm unsure. There's a few red flags there that I need to do some more research on, because to me it seems like a stitch-up. I was just sort of young and naive. I think I got sucked in, eh?
Yeah, geez, I've always had so many questions about that video, but it's good to get some insight into it.
It still pops up on our chat here every couple of months. Boys think it's hilarious, and I'm just want that thing to disappear. I think it might have been you that resurfaced it too, you dirtbag.
Oh, I love it. But you mentioned your Maldives tour, and something that you obviously made a few times. So how do you find it in that environment? You've got proud Māori heritage in there?
Yeah. I think, like, if I'm being brutally honest, prior to making the Maldives, I didn't really understand my Māori side very well. And then I knew I obviously had Māori in me because my grandparents and things. But after sitting down with my nana at the time, and like she was going through the family tree and that, and then actually understanding where I was from and all that, I think it was a pretty cool part of my life. Even post-COVID, my wife and I, we drove up to my marae and that. So it's things that I probably would have never done had I not made the Māoris. And obviously I don't look that Māori, if that's that's what people will say. But I know for a fact that I've got a fair bit of Māori heritage in me. It's just I'm bloody glad I sort of researched it a bit more and got to understand it, because it's a big part of, I suppose, my family side before me, which is important to me.
Yeah, and you obviously made it a few times. So any tours or games that really stand out for you in the Maldives jersey?
Probably the only one that really, we played some interesting opposition. I think one year we went to the UK and played Harlequins, and not even sure if there was an actual international, but the one of the last ones I went to, we went to Japan, and I think we smoked them the first one, and then the second game they almost beat us, and we beat them right on full time, which was it was pretty cool. And looking back, they're a reasonably good team now, and I think that was the start of their rise. So probably looking back, that would be the one.
Good times. And then you went down to the Highlanders. So how was it down there? Obviously, had a few Highlander guys on the podcast already. It always seems like a real tight group of guys who love getting on the sauce.
Yeah.
And a few good yarns. How did you find it down there?
Well, yeah, it was good. From a rugby sense, probably not so much because I didn't play a lot. I was there for 4 years, and I think I might have played 13 odd games with them.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the first year I went down there was post the Commonwealth Games in Delhi, and I got a stress fracture in my back at those Com games. So I went, basically turned up that first year and was done the whole year. So didn't play at all that year. And then that following year was sort of when Bender came on the scene, and he was a fullback as well. So it made life pretty tough trying to sneak in there.
Yeah, true.
And then I had the odd injury in between that probably didn't help my cause, but yeah, didn't play a lot. But from the off-field side, I loved it. I, became good mates with some of those Staggy boys and guys like Bills and that. We had some amazing times together. Some good old Sunday sessions, and there's not much to do in Dunners. It's cold as F, so I wouldn't recommend trying to go down there for some beach time or anything. But it was good. I'm not sure. When I left there, I probably, if I was being honest, I was sort of like happy to leave because I hadn't played any footy, and just I didn't feel like I was, even the year we won it in 2015, I could sort of feel a bit on the outer. But some wicked dudes there, some boys that I'll some memories I'll cherish forever.
Yeah. That's interesting to hear that you felt like you're on the outer, because it is a hard thing when you're not playing, to feel like you're still a part of the team and you're part of the success when people talk about the victories and things. And if you're not a part of it, or you don't feel like you did anything other than hold the tackle bags, it can feel a little bit like that, eh?
Oh, 100%. And I think that's helped me now because I'm really aware of it within our sevens environment. Because if you're not playing, it's I could probably speak for most rugby players. You play rugby to play rugby. You don't play rugby to get the paycheck. Well, some guys might, but get the paycheck and just hold some bags. So you can get frustrated, I think. But it was a bit niggly, but I feel for people that now get in that situation, and you can sense it because you can see how easily it can frustrate people, and their lip drops. And I'd say that'd be one of the hardest things as a coach to keep under wraps, is boys just dropping their lip.
And it's such even though it doesn't feel like the player's doing anything to contribute, being the opposition for those Thursday hit-outs or whatever day it is that you're having a hit-out against each other, they play a massive role into a team's success. So the better that side is, the better they're likely to go in the game in the weekend. So I know it doesn't feel like they're doing anything, but they are actually having a massive role. But because they're not playing under the bright lights, you do feel like you're really not contributing. Yeah,
and I think that was it. Like, it wasn't about. I actually think that was a big part of our success, was our those guys, which was me. We actually pushed the team quite hard at trainings, and we never looked at it like that. But looking back, you're like, like you say, it's a big lead into your team being successful, and at the end of the day, that's what you're there for. I was probably just, to be honest, I was probably just a bit young, and I hadn't really worked that all out yet. But yeah, it's a good lesson, I think.
So where was the next move for you after Highlanders?
So I had 2 stints there. I had 2 years. I went to sevens, and then I think I did another 2 years, and then I feel like maybe after that I potentially didn't get contracted, so I was back with sevens again, which should have been the Rio year, 2016, before I went to Italy.
And how was that? How was Rio?
Well, I didn't go, so.
Oh, that's right. Here we go. Here we go. This is what we want. Spill the beans on this one. The form player in New Zealand. I think you won Sevens Player of the Year, maybe the year before, and you were still in red hot form, but our best player doesn't go to the Olympic Games. Talk to me. What happened? What did you say to him? Yeah,
it's an interesting one. I don't think I said anything. I didn't. It was just a funny year. I think been the first time our sevens team had gone to the Olympics, and there were so many factors in it. But I'd had niggly Achilles the whole year, but I'd played every tournament through it, so for me that wasn't an issue. But anyone that's been, well, you've been coached by Titch.
Yes.
He just has this thing in his head. I had niggly Achilles, and he was like, I just need to see if you can get through it. I was like, mate, I've played every tournament, basically every minute this year. Well, what do you need to see? Yeah. Do you want me to do a beep test for you that I'll probably go right at? So it just got to a point where, I didn't feel like he was doing best for the team either. So, might have said some things to him. I probably just stood up for other guys in our team at times, and he didn't like it. And, maybe that was the reason. I honestly don't know. But, I wasn't selected for the team, but he asked me to be the non-travelling reserve, and I'd lost interest in, I suppose, working for him as a coach, because I just didn't think he was doing best for the team. And, people can take it how they want. I still have respect for Titch as a person, for what he's done for sevens in New Zealand. I just think maybe he missed the boat a wee bit in the latter parts of his coaching. But yeah, I suppose I was a sacrificial lamb of that year, and it sort of panned out that the boys didn't go so well at Rio. But I don't think me not being there didn't have anything really to do with that. It was just probably there's a lot of other factors in that year that led to it being how it is. And at the same time, I think it's moulded our team that we've got now into being a lot better and creating better men, which is, at the end of the day, I'm pretty happy about.
Were you surprised to see them struggle at the Olympics, or did you feel like the environment and the culture wasn't quite right to be going to an Olympics?
I didn't think the environment and culture was right, but at the time I thought we would still, with the team that we had, we still should have gone pretty close. And to be fair, even though they lost to Japan and only scraped through as like the second qualifier or whatever it was, the boys almost beat Fiji in the quarter. So, they weren't as far off as people make out. But it's funny, I sort of always believe things happen for a reason, and maybe that happened for people in New Zealand rugby and that to look closer at what was going on, or maybe even they knew what was going on. It was just a bit hard to move things on that late in the preparation. Yeah.
And he'd called in guys like Sonny Bill and all sorts of big names, eh? So what were they like coming into the sevens environment?
Yeah, they were good. It was Augie Pulu, Sonny, Liam, Messam. That might have been it. But yes, look, guys like that were great. I'm not a coach, so it wasn't up to me to pick the team, but if it was about buying in and that, those guys are sweet. I just think as a whole group, we just, comparing our environment now to that environment, it's light years apart. Around we had a culture, we had a players' culture in the old regime, but it was like players' management, and we were treated like school kids, and it made things worse.
Yeah.
Whereas now we're treated like grown-ups, and grown-ups make their own decisions and live and die by their own decisions. So I think it's a good way to be.
So you're allowed to eat red meat now in the buffet?
Yeah, you can eat red meat. You know what the funny thing is? We're now allowed to do everything, and we do less of it. So it's the same old adage. If you tell someone not to do something, they want to do it, and then when they can do it, they're like, oh, this isn't fun anymore. We'll go look for something else to do. So we've almost gone the other way.
Can you train with a hat on? Clarkie mentioned it the other day, reminded me of it. But can you train with a hat now?
I don't know. Could you not? You always used to wear a hat at training, so you would have been stuffed.
I was stuffed.
Yeah, I haven't had any rules of not being able to wear a hat. So
yeah, surely, eh?
No, we're definitely allowed to now. Sun protection.
Yeah, you need to, eh? Some of the places you're playing are like 40 degrees.
Nothing worse than a red neck.
Oh, wow. Geez, that's some good insight. And then after that, you moved to Zabri, or when did the Zabri move come about?
Yeah, I'd actually already signed to go to Zabri early on in that year before Rio. So I was sort of like, plan was go to Rio and then head overseas to Zabri. But some people looked at it like I was leaving because of that, but I'd already planned to go way before that. So it actually worked out good because had I not had something, I don't know what I would have done because it would have ended pretty abruptly, I'd say. So, yeah, I ended up going to the Zebra pretty much straight after that, which was another interesting sort of yarn.
Yeah, go on.
I'd signed a 2-year deal, and basically they stopped paying us after about maybe 8 or 9 months. I think you've been to Italy, eh?
I played at Ironi, which was the same team until they changed their name. It was a similar situation.
Yeah. Yes, yeah. I knew you had something. Yeah. So basically, what happened to you probably happened to me.
Yeah.
I'd signed a 2-year deal, sort of 8 months into it was the end of our season, but 8 months in, they'd sort of stopped paying us, and they were like missing payments and things. And I was sort of like stuck between a rock and a hard place because I thought I was going overseas to sort of stay overseas, and then it got pretty messy in the end, and I decided, I wasn't willing to risk them not paying us. I just didn't trust them. So, and I know there's boys going there now and probably heading there, but and they've been there since me, and there's been no problems. But I just wasn't willing to risk that. It was too far away from home to just be living off scraps, I suppose. So I ended up bailing and coming back to New Zealand. And that was when I signed to come back and play for Manawatu. But it got pretty messy in the end. Zebra wouldn't pay me, and they also wouldn't sign my release. And I don't know if it works, but like if you come back to New Zealand, you basically have to sign a transfer to play back in New Zealand, and Zebra refused to sign my transfer. So I was basically back in New Zealand. They weren't paying me. I had no team to play for, and I was ready to play for the Turbos, but I think it got to like a week before the first round, and they still hadn't signed my release. And I think some of the heavy hitters had to come in and basically threaten them to either sign it or they'd be removed from certain things, because I think what they're up to was probably no good. So,
jeez, that's loose, eh?
Got real lucky because I thought that was me. I was sitting in Palmy, and I was like, man, that's me done.
Yeah,
I've got a team to play for, but I'm not actually allowed to play for them because legally I can't. So, and at that time, like when I came back to New Zealand, that was when I had first spoken to Clarkey. He was coming back to take the Sevens job.
Yeah.
So I basically signed with Manawatu and Sevens coming back, but I couldn't play for either of them, and I had to play for Manawatu to be able to play for Sevens. Yeah, I had no ability to play because the piece of paper didn't say I could,
crazy,
and they wouldn't sign it. So,
how long were you over there for playing without getting paid?
I'd played the whole season, so we'd finished the Pro 14, and I think it was like Heineken Cup then.
Yeah.
So it might have been like 8 months, and I was there on a 2-year deal. So I was sort of like, I was niggly, especially when you get to that point in your career and you're like, you go there thinking, sweet, I've always been brought up with in New Zealand, you have a contract and that's that. Like,
you get it.
Clearly over there, it's different, eh?
So did you get none of it, or just bits and bobs?
No, they still. Well, I got paid up till that point, but I finished that year playing, and when I left, they'd already owed me, I think, maybe 2 months' pay, and there was 2 more to go for that year.
Oh, yeah.
So still waiting for that money to arrive. The pigeon's got to drop it all, I think. That could have covered the punting, eh?
Oh, I don't know about that. It must have been a lot. Oh, true. So then, I remember. I sort of remember you being at a crossroads where you didn't have a contract, and then the Sevens lifeline sort of came. So you were sort of looking for a Super Rugby gig, I'm guessing, and none came. So you went back to Sevens, and I'm not sure if you were you keen to do Sevens again, or did you want to stay in the 15s game?
No, I was. So when I was over there, that was when I first spoke to Clark, when it was sort of unfolding. Yeah. He might have been at London Irish at the time.
He was, yeah. I know. He left me to go coach you, get your gig. Right. Always looking after the boys.
Yeah. So he was coming back. He must, he knew he'd had the job for Sevens, and I think it was just luck. My agent maybe his agent was with the same agency, and just happened in convo they said something. I was like, yeah, I feel like I've always wanted to play for teams that you're passionate about.
Yeah.
For some, for different reasons, but sevens for me was a big part of who I am as a rugby player, and the thought of going back and having a sort of second sniff at it was, especially when I didn't think I ever would, was pretty exciting. And then Clark gave me that opportunity, said he's going back. We're pretty keen to have you involved. We had some good convos, and I think he understood how much that team meant to me. So it wasn't, different coaches, different views, I suppose.
And then you obviously hit the ground running. You're straight back into your old sevens form, absolutely running amok.
Yeah, it was good. Like our team as a whole, I think, started to hit their straps. That year that I was in Italy, I actually went over and watched them in France, and they were battling. They, I think they might have had Scooter Waldron as their coach. Sort of like he was in between, so he didn't really have clarity on what he was up to. So there's some guys in there that were just, I think, there just to say they were in the sevens team. They maybe didn't care as much as other guys that I'd been involved in the past. So yeah, Crikey rounded up a crew of guys that were bloody passionate about a team, which I think is bloody important, and motivated to see it get back to where it used to be. So it's been a nice little uphill trot since then, which has been cool.
Shit, yeah. And you obviously had some success, the Commonwealth Games, Sevens World Cup the same year, eh?
Yeah.
Gold Coast and San Fran, a couple of unreal tournaments from you boys. How did you find those ones?
Yeah, it was epic. It was just like sort of like worked in sort of steps. We kept building, and on the way to building, we were winning stuff. And I suppose the World Cup was the final point of that building where everything sort of clicked. So yeah, we just we were lucky to win some big tournaments, and even post that, we leading into pre-COVID, we were humming. I think we'd won or made 5 of the 6 finals, and we were running pretty smoothly. So we were lucky. It went in the direction that we all hoped it would, but there's a lot of hard work from a lot of people behind the scenes to make it get to that point.
Yeah, and how did you find the COVID break? Obviously, a lot of travel's involved, and the Sevens circuit is all shut down. You're not really sure when the next tournament's going to be. It must have been tough times as a Sevens player having COVID involved. Yeah,
it was. It kind of, and even still now, it's shut down. Our World Series probably doesn't even really exist at the moment. It's sort of finding their feet with it. But for me personally, COVID, it was actually quite good for me as a person. Sounds a bit selfish, but we got married, I think, 2 days before that lockdown. So I didn't go to the last tournament, which happened to be in Vancouver, which was a hot spot about 3 days later. So I'd say some of the boys probably brought COVID back with them. And then, we had our wedding, and my now wife, she lived up in Auckland at the time, so we didn't even live together, and it sort of forced everything to happen. So, COVID, there was niggly parts of COVID for me as a rugby player, but for me as a person, and probably helped with the rugby past that, was pretty good.
And a COVID baby, was it?
Nah, I think it was just after. But we can claim it as one. I'm down for whatever, eh? Sure, there was some practice in there during COVID, eh?
Oh, there would have been plenty of practice, no doubt. So now, talk about sort of where you're at now with the Sevens, and not really sure what the next sort of plan is for, I guess, the Sevens team in general. But what's your plans? Are you hanging around with the New Zealand Sevens team? Is your goal to make the next Olympics? I know it's only 3 years away now. So what goals have you got or plans ahead?
To be honest, I haven't thought too far ahead. I'm signed till the end of next season.
Yeah,
I'd already signed. So I haven't thought too far ahead. I'm still really enjoying it. So there's no reason to throw a towel in when you're still enjoying it. And I feel like I've still got a bit to offer for our team. So I'll just see what next year looks like. We've got the Com Games next year and the World Cup. So there's still things for us to look forward to. Then post that, who knows whether I'm still playing good sevens. Who knows? It's probably Clarkie's decision more than mine. But yeah, I'm still enjoying footy. I obviously had that season with Hawke's Bay last season, and I actually really enjoyed it. Sort of reignited the 15s flame for me, which I didn't think I'd play 15s again. So then there was another positive of COVID was I was able to play 15s, which just I wasn't contractually allowed to normally. So
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. I haven't really thought too far ahead. We've obviously had a massive campaign with leading up to the Olympics, and sort of only had a week and a half to regather myself. So just see what this next year entails, and hope that I can still play good footy, because you're a long time retired when you decide to pull pin.
Are you what? Jeez.
Straight into coaching gigs, isn't it?
But could you play 15s now? Are you able to play Bunnings Cup?
Not normally, but it's usually a conversation you can have with the coach with Clark, and New Zealand Rugby, and they were pretty good about it last year, and I suppose it's usually up to them. I could ask whether they say yes or not is up to them, and it depends on what we've got coming up and things like that. So yeah, see what happens this year. We've got another week, get out of isolation and see what happens.
True. And you've got your wee Kratos Kitchen side hustle going. Talk me through this. This is some of the best food you'll see. I love this, Kratos Kitchen.
Tasty stuff, eh?
Yeah. How did it start?
I think it was a COVID thing. We were sitting in COVID, and I was like, man, because I've always enjoyed sort of cooking, and if I see something, we've always gone eating out and things like that. So you see good food, you Google a recipe and give it a hone.
Yeah.
And then I was like, wow, being a footy guy, I was like, well, there's probably some younger guys that battle to cook, so why not I'll just make a page and chuck some sort of semi-basic recipes. There's some tough ones there too, but just good basic Kiwi food. And I was like, well, I'll just see how it goes, and got a bit of traction. And it was more for myself, because I used to Google a recipe and then I'd lose it, or just lose it in all your tabs. I was like, why don't I just put a photo picture? So now if I need to make anything, I just go onto the Kratos Kitchen page and get the rest. It's basically my own recipe book, but other people can see it.
Is it something you'd look to do after rugby?
I don't know.
Celebrity Master Chef?
Oh, I don't know if I'd back myself just to, say they give you an eggplant and some sauce. I don't know what I'd be doing with it. So bad choice of plant, but I
that
don't know.
Would be a great dish.
Yeah.
I don't care how good you are.
Some eggplant and meatballs, you reckon? But yeah, I wouldn't be too flashy at that side of it. But I enjoy cooking, and as long as I keep finding new things to cook, I'll probably keep putting it up there.
What about a wee cafe or a wee restaurant for you?
I always thought it'd be cool to do a cafe, but the chat is it's bloody hard work, and you got to really work for your cash. So
pass.
That sounded wrong. Working for your cash. Changing the recipes every day, I feel like that would stress me out. I'd rather just cook what I feel like when I want.
Yeah. Yeah, there's easier ways to make money with you, eh? Modelling, there we go. How have you found that? You're obviously
a dad
man of jockey these days. Like you're the Dan Carter of New Zealand rugby.
They're obviously looking for a different prototype, I think, with me.
You're quite shredded now, though, eh? Like, the old you was a bit sloppy, but you're shredding.
That's what soup does to you. You have too many soups, you can really let yourself go. Yeah, they're definitely looking for a different setup.
How do you find it, though? How do you find it in front of the camera, walking the catwalk? Are you comfortable, or is it pretty awkward?
No shit, no. It's bloody intimidating. I've said to a few people, I reckon it's scarier than any game of rugby I've ever played.
Is it? Yeah.
Standing, waiting to go out on the catwalk, you get the wobbly knees. It's pretty intimidating.
Yeah.
You're in your undies, like, you're looking at my setup, like, you haven't got much to hide.
Well, you'd be so much more comfortable doing it nude, though.
Nah, see, around the right people. That's the thing. I'm all good around, the boys and that. It's funny, but tough sell. We're like people that actually expect you to look half decent, and you don't.
So, who's actually looking at these? Watching you walk this catwalk?
Well, they usually do it at Fashion Week, so it's all I don't know, people a lot higher than me in the fashion world. I don't know. I'm unsure. It's better as them and then the 1,000 cameras that they have sitting there that usually spread it across a paper or something. Or when you're strolling down bloody Auckland Main Street and you look up and there's a billboard of your crook carcass on there.
Yeah, true. But at least now it's you're in a team when you're doing it, eh? There's usually a few of you boys doing it together, which must make it a little bit more, make you feel a little bit more comfortable.
It's usually a pretty good laugh with, usually there's, I think, 2 or 3 All Black boys and 2 or 3 Sevens crew, so we're all in the same boat. We're all probably comfortable in our own skin, but as soon as you chuck us in some undies in front of people, we're pretty uncomfortable. So at least we're all in the same boat together.
Yeah, but not something you'd look to do post-footy.
I don't know if you can maintain the carcass for that long, can you? Unless they're going, as I was saying, unless they're going for something different.
Yeah, well, they seem to be these days, eh? So, yeah.
No, they're bloody lucky that they got me on board with them, and cool. They're a cool brand to be part of. They sort of have a laugh, which is kind of me. They don't take it too seriously, which is, I suppose, kind of me. So it suits to team up with them.
For sure, but we're talking post-rugby. Is there anything that you are sort of set on doing for post-rugby? Because I know you've still got a few years left, but it's always a area which a lot of players are, it's a little bit nerve-wracking coming to the end of your career, not really knowing what you're going to do.
Yeah, I reckon it's one of the scariest things, is the end. And I don't think people really realise that, haven't been in rugby environments, the end can come at any stage.
Yeah.
I reckon I was lucky, for me that Zebra, that Italy experience was a bloody good wake-up call for me. I thought I was cruising at that stage. And I've said that to lots of people, like lots of players since. I was like, it's all good when you're cruising and you're getting a contract every 2 years and it's sweet, but when it sort of abruptly ends, or you think it might abruptly end, and you haven't got your shit sorted, it's pretty freaking scary.
Yeah.
Since then, I've actually done a fair bit of, quite a few properties and that, which will keep me busy when I'm dried up, and we'll just be a maintenance man or something, hopefully. Do renos I'll just work around in circles and do renos until even if they're a brand new reno, I'll go again. But yeah, I did my real estate papers in lockdown, and yeah, I think that's what I want to be involved in. I've, as I say, got a few of my own properties, and I feel like I'm interested in that side of things. So I'm like a qualified real estate agent, but it's one of those games that I think you got to build a reputation. And if I do it piss poorly while I'm still doing rugby, I probably won't do myself any favours. So hopefully get into that when I'm done. I spent like the last 4 years while I've been at Sevens working at ASB Bank, so it was good for a bit of like sort of upskilling, I suppose. Working out whether that's me or not. Yeah, I've since that Italy thing, I've just made sure I've tried heaps of things. Obviously, I was sparky out of school, I'm an electrician, so it's been bloody handy for me, like with property and that. And I'm one of those people now. I'm just like, shit, if there's an opportunity, I'll take it and see if I like it.
Yeah, that's cool.
And I reckon it's the best thing you can do as a rugby player, because sure, we get some opportunities, and I don't think we realise it until it's all gone.
Yeah, you hear it all the time. Guys get to the sort of latter half of their career and they start thinking, oh, shit, it's coming around, so I'm going to start doing everything. But imagine if you started doing it from when you were young, and how many skills and how much knowledge you would have gained, I guess. Yeah,
and I always think early on, I remember, I don't even know who it was, but they used to say, go to a promo, like we have that many promos.
Yeah.
And don't stand in the corner like a numbnuts and just freaking drink the free fizzy and leave. And I always made an effort to talk to people, and I've met so many people in those sort of things that, are friends now, or, people that you still talk to that, one day might have an opportunity. So I've tried to drill that into guys, when you're talking to them. And in lockdown, our PDM got Andy Ellis to talk to our Sevens boys, and I thought he was awesome. He was probably a lot like sort of I think I am, as in would just talk to people, take opportunities when they popped up. I reckon it's the best thing you can do as a player, because it should be pretty scary, I reckon, when it all ends and you don't have big crew of 20 odd players around you just to
Yeah.
laugh about shit.
Mate,
So-
that is great advice, because that is so true. Like, people always talk about knowledge, but what a lot of it comes down to, especially post rugby, is contacts. Who do you know? Who have you met along the road? Who rates you as a character, and who wants you to work for them when you finish rugby? And mate, someone like you, with the amount of contacts you've made, the personality you are, you will have absolutely no issues at all. You'll be selling houses left, right, and centre, mate.
I bloody hope so, Jam. Otherwise, you coming to call you.
Mate, you've heard it here first. You will be fine. You're a good kid, no doubt. But it's also interesting hearing you talk about the fear of losing that contract, because it's happened a lot in the podcast. Guys have sort of got to a moment in their career where it's all been taken away from them, and they're thinking, what is next? Do I need to retire? And that sort of sparked something and given them that new life for their career, and they've ended up going a lot further than they ever would have imagined if they hadn't had that moment. And I feel like you've done that as well. Like, your sevens game's gone to a whole new level since there, and it's awesome to see that something like that can just, a sort of a switch in mindset can have that sort of impact on players.
Yeah, I agree. I just feel like, you look at, well, when you're younger, you look at rugby, or being a rugby player, as just rugby, but I sort of look at rugby now as it's rugby, but it's also your off-field, and they sort of complement each other.
Yeah.
I honestly believe that, since I'd sort of, not saying I'm perfect now, but since I've started sorting my shit out,
Yeah.
I've got a lot less to worry about when it actually comes to rugby, and I'm at peace when I roll out on the field.
Yeah.
And I actually reckon it's helped my game. So, it's hard when you're young, and I suppose we don't mature till we're a bit older as males are anyway. But when you're young, and we would have all been told it, like, sort something out away from rugby. What other job in the world do you have someone that's paid to help you find another job? Like, it's ridiculous with the PDMs. Yet no one takes it up.
Yeah.
And that's been my biggest learning is just make use of those people, because if you don't, I'd say she's a pretty sad life when it all ends. It's all good now.
And it happens heaps. You hear it all the times. Guys get to the end of their career, no money left. They've spent it buying cars and punting and all sorts of weird shit, and then and they've got no qualifications or have a job, and it's extremely stressful. I could imagine being in that position, and mate, it would be the most stressful thing.
Yeah, I agree. It actually makes me nervous thinking about it, and I feel like I'm pretty sorted. Don't get me wrong, I'm going to need a job. I'm going to need a real good job, but I've got a roof to live under. Like, I've bought a house when I was first left school, and it's just chipped away my whole career. So things like that. At least now I know. I sort of set goals real early on, but didn't actually think they were achievable. Like, one of the goals was, all I wanted was a freehold home, because my theory was, at least if I get cut from rugby and I've got a house to live in, that's all that matters. Like, I've just got to find enough money then to pay my power bill and stuff. So, I sort of had that goal in my head, and now obviously goals move as you tick them off. But
now it's 10 freehold houses.
Yeah, it's a penthouse. Petrol pad, eh? But it's scary, but at the same time, I reckon if you sort it, it makes life way better.
Yeah,
and like I've got a wife and a wee girl now, so you've got people that depend on you, and as you get older, you get more people that depend on you. So it's nice to be able to make sure that you can help fend for your family as well.
Mate, that is awesome. Love that chat. Wasn't expecting so much about post footy, but that is good. But what a journey! Like, seriously, what a career you've been. It's been so, like, all over the show. You've been sevens, 15s, new teams. You played for so many different teams. You met so many different people. But mate, you've been constant to who you are. And on the Instagram, I've put the questions out as always, and you can tell what sort of a character you are by how many questions came in, and they're all similar in what they are. Okay, first question. Who's the worst player to get one-on-one with in sevens?
Oh, I'll go on our own team. I'd probably say like a Joe Webber.
Oh, yeah.
Someone like that. But sure, he can be in the washing machine pretty quick with him.
Hey, he's always had a gun, Steph, eh?
Yeah.
Oh.
I'll tell you what, someone who tested me at the Olympics was old Samu Karevi, because he can run over you, but he can also step you. They're the worst.
He is a big, strong man, that one.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. You got so many questions about this, your famous celebration. First one is, do you rest the balls on the neck or tuck them? Basically, what's the technique?
They must rest on the neck. I'm not sure I've ever actually. It's just being where it is. There's no like position. It's just where it is where it is. Well, they are. I got two.
Your two penises.
No. I thought you were talking about yeah. No. I think acorns, they sit either side, don't they?
Oh, yeah.
Either side of the neck bone.
That's good clarity. Okay, well, the next one. How did the celebration come about? So how did that start?
I can honestly say I don't know. All I know is that from a real early age, even from like club rugby, I used to nude up with, if we'd won a trophy or something. So I always think like everyone always says, don't forget your roots. I feel like that was my roots, so I just couldn't forget it. So I've actually got a photo. This was before social media was like, what it is now, and probably wouldn't have got away with it. But I've got a photo. I think we went to London and we might have won the World Series in that tournament, and I'm nude there with cups and things. So I suppose I've always done it, and just give the people what they want, eh? Good laugh.
That's it, and people do love it, eh? It's massive. Like, so many people post photos of themselves doing it all the time. You must get tagged in them everywhere.
Oh, man, I get tagged in so many, and I just laugh every time because I'm like, I just feel like sometimes people take themselves and the world too seriously, and sports, like, we all play sport for the good times, and, well, I think people do. So I actually really enjoy seeing it when it's usually like when the end of break footy season rolls through, I get pumped through. Cricket season, usually get a fair few. I got one from the Steel one year.
Oh, true.
Good laugh. Yeah. Wendy Frew had the seasons out.
Oh, that's good stuff. Yeah, can't beat a little bit of nudity, eh? And you've obviously driven that from...
Nah, it's good stuff.
All around the world. It's good stuff. Okay, next one. Tell us some stories about the great Nick Crosswell.
Oh, Crosby. To be fair, I owe a fair bit to the Crosswell. He was at the Turbos when I started out, and when I first sort of made it, we used to, obviously, young mates were all at uni, so we'd soup up after club footy, and usually the next day. But the next day, he usually used to have pool sessions for the provincial thing. Everyone that's played footy will know that. And I used to, every Sunday, I'd turn up either hungover or still steamed. And I was just living with my mates at the time because it was just a good time. And he's like, oh, just come live with me. So I ended up moved in with him and some other older Turbos boys. And, they went square. We sent it a fair few times, but he probably just pushed me more to the way I needed to. And he was one of my best men at my wedding. So he got a lot of time for the cross.
Oh, how good is that? Okay, any backlash from that iconic photo?
Nah, you get the odd 1% of people that spark up and say it's out of order or something, but if 99% are saying all good, then keep it on, I say.
Keep it on. Okay, next one from Phil Burley, one of the greats. Ask him if he still has his wee cat's tongue. He used to get nude and drink milk out of a cat's paw with it.
Nah, it's not a part of the furniture anymore.
Did it get removed?
Yeah.
Oh, good stuff. Okay. Favorite all-time punt to wind home?
Oof.
Oh, you would have some absolute beauties.
Oh, yeah. I got one. Very elegant. It's my favourite. I've wound that home a few times lately. Yeah. Cox Plate, reckon Storm's home.
What, this year or last year?
Oh, yeah, they won the Caulfield Cup last year. We went to the Hawke's Bay races.
Yeah.
Full day on the soup after playing a Ranfurly Shield game the day before. And obviously, because Aussie races are a bit delayed, we had a full day at Hawke's Bay, went all right, and then loaded up on Very Elegant. She came home in the Caulfield Cup. Shit, it was good stuff.
Oh, they're the ones. I knew there'd be something in there.
Yeah. Treated myself to some... Well, we actually went out for Thai afterwards just to celebrate a big win.
And that's how you became freehold.
Yeah.
Goal accomplished.
It was one of... Yeah, we were either in or out. It was either freehold or remortgage.
Oh, good stuff. Okay, next one. Tell us what you said to the touch judge in Hawke's Bay 2009 to get a 6-week ban.
I didn't say what he said I said. That's the thing that still grates me.
What did he say you said?
I think it was quite bad. I think he said to the point where I was like... It was along the lines of like I wanted to kill him or something. And I was like, I didn't say that. But it basically became my word against his word, and I was on a hiding to nothing. I was 18. If you saw my haircut at the time, I was a disgraceful human. So I wasn't going to win that argument. I definitely, would have said some swear words, but I'm not actually sure.
Can't remember.
No, that's buried, I think, hopefully. I learned my lesson, sort of.
Oh, good stuff. Okay. Clarkie's got one. What did he have on the flight home, and could he show you from a rowing coach?
The washing actually just came back, so I could. It's a little bit fresh.
What was it?
It's a rowing suit.
Oh, yeah.
So having the reputation that I do, the boys were trying to get me nude on the plane, and I was like, wow. That's not going to work because I'm not that keen on getting arrested off a plane. So I got a rowing suit and I got changed into that, and I was just, we'll leave it at that. I've got a rowing suit.
Oh, that's good stuff. It must have been some plane trip. Love that.
Oh, I'll just bury that.
Okay, next one. Whose neck has been the comfiest place to put your trouser snake on?
I don't know if you call it a snake, it's more like a slug. Go with... Who was the first?
Trail, was it?
Trail Joss. Yeah, big Trey.
Good Tasman neck.
Yeah, big Tassie neck. Yeah, he was the first. I had no issues. He might have had a rash, but I had no issues.
Okay. Who'd be one teammate you'd want your custom celebration on your shoulders?
Oh. I was going to say Big Sammy Dixon.
Oh, be right round the neck, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I'd have a necklace, but it'd just be good for the lulz. You'll go Sam Dixon. Just to give the people what they want.
Yeah, that's what they want, no doubt. Okay, next one. What's the backstory to your 2 thumbs up?
There was no real... the first time I did it was just in Wellington because one of the boys at Antonio Kitty, he wasn't playing, and he said, if you get a dot, look up and just give me 2 thumbs up, and he was up at the Cape Tin. So I did it, and it was a bit of a, just did it just because he said to do it, and then sort of crowd got him behind it, and I was like, we might as well just keep it on.
Love it.
And then just kept it on, and gets people into the game, so it's usually a good sign. If there's some thumbs up, then I'm scoring some tries, which is usually good. Hasn't been in a while though. Dry patch.
Okay, last one. What's the best piece of advice you've ever received? You've sprinkled lots of good ones throughout this episode.
Oh.
Looking forward to this.
Best piece of
I know you do a bit of talking to the youth these days around advice and sharing your wisdom, so this could be good.
That's a great question. I'd go the first one would be just don't take things for granted, as in from a rugby sense, don't take what you have for granted. And I suppose it probably goes in life anyway. Sometimes you think you've just got it sweet, and then you do something to make it disappear, or it just disappears. So just don't take it for granted, because from a rugby sense, you're pretty bloody lucky to have what we have, and do what we do and get paid to do it. So I think the day you take things for granted like that, you're done.
Wow, that is good. You can't have another one, can you? That was so good. Go again.
Nah,
go
I
again.
don't even know what the other one
Go
was.
again. No, go again. Go again.
No. We'll leave it at that.
Mate, don't take things for granted.
Oh, nah. Here's another one.
Here we go. Yeah.
Like, because I obviously haven't always been perfect in, throughout my career. I've made errors and not talking rugby, but say the touch judge thing.
Yeah.
But I reckon the one thing you can do is if you stuff up, just admit it and be better for it. Because if you try to run from it, she's a long road to your running. So usually, if you do make, no one's perfect, and like I'd say, look at me as an example of anyone that knows me. We've just done some dumb shit and still here, but I suppose you just got to front it.
100%. Oh, mate, that's 2 quality pieces of advice as I expected. But, mate, absolutely appreciate you coming on the podcast, mate. It's been some journey. I loved my time playing with you in the Naki. We had some of the best times of my career up there. Loved every minute.
How about the multis?
Mate, some unbelievable multis landed and some syndicates were on fire. But it's been awesome following you since our times in the Naki. Watch your career progress and all the way to the biggest stage. And one of the greatest lads to come on the podcast. I really appreciate you coming on, mate.
Cheers, Jeva. Thanks for having me.
You're a good kid. Appreciate it.
Cheers, bro.